Hello? My name is Antonio. I am 74 years old. At this age, something strange begins to happen to your memories. You start seeing your life differently. Moments that once felt normal suddenly reveal lessons you couldn't understand when you were younger. Age gives you distance from your younger self, from the decisions you made, from the words you said, and especially from the moments you now realize you should have handled differently. For most of my life, I believed love was simple. You meet someone, you fall in love, you build a life together. When I was young, I believed something very naive. I believed that if your intentions were good, then everything in love would work out. I thought love could take care of itself. I was a young man full of certainty. I believed I understood how life worked, how relationships worked. But youth often gives us confidence without giving us wisdom. I met my wife Clara when I was 23 years old, and from the moment I saw her, something in my life quietly changed. Clara had a very calm personality. She was never loud, never dramatic. She had a quiet strength about her. We lived in a very small apartment back then. Nothing fancy, nothing impressive, but it was ours. We didn't have much money, but somehow we felt incredibly rich. Rich in dreams, rich in hope. Just two young people trying to figure life out together. At night, we used to talk for hours about the future, about the kind of life we hoped to build. We talked about the house we wanted to buy one day, a small garden, maybe a dog, simple dreams. We also promised each other something else, that one day we would travel, see places neither of us had ever seen before. Back then, I believed something that many young people believe. I believed love stayed strong on its own. I believed love didn't need much attention, that once it existed, it would simply remain there, forever. But life has a quiet way of changing things. Not suddenly, slowly, almost invisibly. My work started demanding more of my time. Longer hours, more responsibility. Overtime slowly became normal. Then longer days. Then entire weeks where I barely noticed the time passing. Sometimes I even took a second job. I told myself it was necessary. I believed I was doing it all for my family, for stability, for security, for the future. But while I focused on building a future, something else was quietly happening, something I didn't notice. The distance between Clara and me started growing, little by little. We never stopped loving each other. That wasn't the problem. The problem was much quieter. We slowly stopped noticing each other. Clara carried many responsibilities, emotional support for everyone around us, and because she rarely complained, I assumed everything was fine. But silence can be very dangerous in a relationship. Silence does not always mean peace. Sometimes, silence means someone is carrying too much alone. Then one ordinary evening, everything changed. It was a normal Tuesday. I came home from work exhausted. I sat down on the couch, turned on the television. Just another evening. Clara walked slowly into the living room. She sat across from me and looked at me very quietly. After a long silence, she asked me a question, a very simple question. She said, "Antonio, do you still see me?" At first I didn't understand what she meant. I thought she meant the question literally, but then I saw the tears in her eyes, and suddenly I understood. She wasn't asking if I could see her. She was asking if I still noticed her. That moment stayed with me. It made me realize how easily we stop paying attention to the people we love. Not because we stop caring, but because life gets loud. And sometimes, we forget to truly see the person standing right in front of us. That night, I looked at Clara differently, not as the woman I had been living with for years, but as the girl I once fell in love with, and for the first time in a long time, I realized how much of her I had stopped noticing. Her smile, her patience, the quiet ways she cared for us every day. Marriage doesn't break in one moment, it slowly fades. When two people stop seeing each other, but it can come back to life with something very simple, attention. Something as simple as that. So I started paying attention again. I noticed the way she laughed, the stories she told, the little things I once loved about her, and slowly, it felt like meeting her all over again. Most people think love ends with time, but that's not true. Love ends when we stop seeing the person beside us, and sometimes all it takes to save it is one honest question. So if you love someone, pay attention. Notice their smile, their voice, the little things they do. Because one day, those small moments will become memories, and you'll wish you had looked just a little closer. So tonight, look at the person you love, truly see them, and make sure they never have to ask you, "Do you still see me?" I've told this story many times, not because it's extraordinary, but because it's simple. And sometimes, the simplest moments change our entire lives. That night, Clara asked me a question I almost ignored, but that question made me see something I had forgotten. The person I loved, standing right in front of me. Life moves fast. Work, responsibilities, worries, they fill our days, and without realizing it, we stop noticing the people who matter the most. So if there's one thing I want you to remember from my story, it's this. Look at the person you love, not quickly, not distracted, but truly look at them, because one day you may realize that the moments you overlooked were the most important ones of your life. Clara taught me that, and for that, I will always be grateful, because sometimes love doesn't disappear, it just waits for us to notice it again. If this story meant something to you, if it made you remember someone you love, then maybe it was meant to reach you today. There are many stories like this. Stories about love, about mistakes, about second chances, and about the quiet moments that change everything. So if you want to hear more stories like this, stories that remind us what really matters.
So if you enjoyed this, please subscribe to the channel for more.
Maybe the next story will be the one you needed to hear. Thank you for listening to mine. I wish you courage. I wish you wisdom. And most of all, I wish you love. Good luck on your journey. See you next time.